Okay, episode 2, Smallville season 9, titled Metallo. Brilliant episode. John Corbin, this is where he's transformed into the villain known as Metallo after a horrific accident because he got hit by a truck. Suddenly he's transported to a remote area, well, I say remote, but like a makeshift surgery room, and suddenly wakes up and he's basically got a partially metallic bionic arm, and then he sees his chest has been somehow surgically changed with a nice big kryptonite heart. The interesting thing that I found about this episode was that there was a lot of emotional aspects to this episode, especially between Lois Clark and Chloe and Clark as well. What I mean by that is Lois basically tells Chloe that the Blur has been contacting her, and that according to Lois, she's the only person that he can really trust right now. Chloe finds that hard to take, so when she approaches Clark, she basically says, "Look, you're the one who says that you want to go away, do your training, and take on your Kryptonian destiny, yet you're still hanging on to a human side of you that you said you wanted to get rid of." And it kind of dawned on Clark that although he said that Clark Kent is dead, he's now going to take on his Kryptonian destiny. There's still a part of him that wants to have the human side, and it kind of borders on how he's going to become the hero that we all know, and also what responsibilities he's got to take on for himself. He doesn't know if he should still take on, still have these emotional feelings as a human, but still remain true to his Kryptonian destiny and his heritage. Because there's one particular scene where Lois comes to the Kent farm, finds Shelby all on his own, and what we find is that he's still got food, so someone's obviously been feeding the dog. But what we find is Lois then takes the dog back to her apartment at the Talon. That's when Chloe enters, and then this is where she tells Chloe about the Blur and everything. So when Chloe returns Shelby back to the farm, that's when Clark shows up, and he's basically, that's when it all happens between Lois and Chloe and Clark, where Chloe's like saying to Clark, "Look, I could have been Lois. What would you have done? You're dressed in he's dressed in his nice little black outfit. What if Lois had been the one that entered the room when he was saying hi to Shelby?" So all that aspects, it definitely is interesting. The Metallo side of things was very, very interesting, because what we found is we found that Metallo was actually created by the Kryptonians that came out of the purple orb. So basically Zod and all these people were the ones who created that Metallo, basically. Tess has this science guy who's been tracking the movements of the Kryptonians since they left the mansion, because now they've actually gone in search of supposedly other Kryptonians that have also entered the Earth, and they tracked them down to this makeshift surgery where John Corbin was transformed into Metallo. And what we find is that the reason why they created him was that they're actually experimenting on him, and according to Tess, they may have discovered how they're starting to discover their power. So it's a possibility that they're starting to get their powers back, or that their powers are starting to develop. We don't know, because none of the other Kryptonians are featured in this episode. The likes of Zod and all of them, all his disciples, are not featured. There's an interesting part towards the end of the episode that I'm not going to talk about, because I'm actually going to show a clip later on, not after this video, but in a separate clip. But really got me interested, because what we find is that well, no, I'm not even going to say it, because I want you to see the actual clip itself. So when the clip shows, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Overall, what did I think of this episode? Very good. good way of introducing Metallo. We find that obviously Clark has to find a way of defeating Metallo without getting himself injured, because obviously being a kryptonite heart and he's vulnerable to kryptonite, everybody knows the crack between Metallo and Superman. So it was very interesting to see how he had to cope with the fight between him and Metallo. Again, I think I'll show that video as well, the clip of that, in a separate video as well. Also, with Lois, again, she's still having the flashbacks. We find out that although Tess had said that she fired Lois, when Lois said that she wanted to come back, you know, through no negotiation whatsoever, we actually find that Chloe has found out that Tess is actually spying on Lois. So Tess wants to know what happened during those 3 weeks that she disappeared. You know, where did she go? What happened? You know, what did she see and all that sort of stuff. So because Tess already knows who Clark is, Lois and Clark and Chloe and Clark rather are now trying to prevent Tess from trying to get any more information of Lois, of her whereabouts for the past 3 weeks. So next few episodes, I'm sure over the coming throughout the season, we're going to see how, you know, obviously we're going to eventually find out what the full story of these flashbacks that Lois is getting. But as I say, you know, overall it was an enjoyable episode, very intense as well at some point in some parts. As I say, there's a lot of emotional aspects as well. The Blur obviously is, well, Clark rather, is still having human attachments that he cannot let go, especially for Lois. And Chloe pretty much confirmed this for him in the episode, but he is still not too sure what he wants to do. Let's just see what happens in the next episode. So, definitely getting interested now. I have to admit, I am loving Smallville even more now. Season 9 is looking to be probably the best season yet, and let's just see how it progresses. Okay, that's it from me, and I should say good night.